Good morning. It's WKRK 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, worldwide at country.am. And we have Sheriff Palmer back in the studio with us this morning. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Doing well. Just waiting on some rain to get here, it looks like.
Did you have a nice, productive week last week?
I did. Had a good week last week.
Yeah, people ask me why you laid out again.
Yeah. It's
laid out on the radio.
Laid out, yeah. No, I was in Chapel Hill all week last week doing some training, and it was a good week. Had a good time out there. It's good to be able to get away and have good, qualified, competent people to take your place while you're gone, and you don't have to worry about a whole lot while you're out there. So that's good to have those kind of people.
Mark did a really good job. He always does.
He does. Mark does a great job.
Yeah, we had him here. We talked for 25, 30 minutes, no interruption. I think we had stuff to talk about we didn't get to.
Right.
So I think you and I have that same problem from time to time.
We do from time to time. Mark is one of those kind of guys, though, that I've said quite often, and I say it kind of tongue-in-cheek, joking with him, but I really do mean it. I always tell him that if he ever decides he wants to retire again and leave, he can't go, because if he goes, I'm going with him. And, I know there was some, when I appointed him as chief deputy, I know there's people had some questions, and some was ecstatic that I did. Some didn't like it, and some was kind of wondering why I kind of made that move. But I tell you, Mark has been one of the best decisions I've made since being elected sheriff. He has been able to take care of things I need taken care of. He's got a vast history of law enforcement, of EMS, of fire, of magistrate, worked for EnviroSafe, for all kind of training on catastrophic events that can happen.
Right.
So anything that's happened that's come up that I've needed help on, I've been able to go to him, and he's been able to help me with it, and pretty much didn't have to look anything up. He knew right off the top of his head, what needed to be done and where you could find it and those kind of things. And even right down to the radio towers and stuff we're having to deal with and work on. He's got all kind of radio history, so he's been able to get on top of that.
Well, that's great. Someone with that kind of knowledge base.
It is.
It's not only great, it's just convenient.
Right.
You got to love convenience.
Makes you look good, too.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but no, we had a good week last week. We, like I said, we're doing some training, and the Sheriff's Leadership Institute, put on by the Sheriff's Association, has a 4-week class where they kind of go over everything for being sheriff, from right down to your constitutional authority and what you can do and what you can't do and what the state allows you to do and what the country allows you to do, all the way up to the nuts and bolts of your office and how to put things together and how to make things work. And one of the greatest things about that 4-week class is that you have the ability to sit down with other sheriffs across the state.
Right.
And not only the newly elected sheriffs that are kind of going through the same process you're going through, but also those that have been there 20 years that can, when you have questions and things that's going on, you can ask them, have you ever seen this? And you can call upon those resources of those other sheriffs, and they can tell you, well, let me tell you what I've seen in my county, and I've tried this, and this worked, and this didn't work, and these are the reasons why. So it kind of builds that network of being able to talk to other people and meet other people and have resources that you can call on, when you have problems or you have things that come up.
Yeah, I think some of my most valuable resources is by talking with other radio station owners and figure out exactly what you said, what works, what doesn't work, and ways to save money and things like that. It's not always great to reinvent the wheel. When the wheel works great.
When the wheel works great, keep using it. And the good thing about that, too, building those relationships with those other sheriffs, like for one thing that we've done recently is from basically Asheville this way, including Henderson County and some of those Transylvania and some of those other counties out through there. We've actually entered into mutual aid agreements with all the counties on the western end of the state. All the sheriffs have a copy of the mutual aid agreement where all the sheriffs have signed. The resolutions from the County Board of Commissioners attached to that document, so everybody has the document. And so we have resources across the state that we can call in the event we have a major event, have a disaster, have something. Those other sheriffs and those other counties can come to your aid and have the legal authority to do so, to come to your aid anytime you need anything. So that's always great to have those resources of all those other counties with all those other sheriffs. And it's all about camaraderie and building those relationships and knowing that you're not in this thing by yourself, but you have other people you can count on.
And I read recently from Towns County Sheriff's Office that your office and Towns County had worked out some kind of agreement to help each other.
Right.
How does that work?
Well, what it is like across state lines, for example, you're in 2 different states, so you have two different governing authorities there. But for one of the things that we have done, like with Towns County, is we are wanting in North Carolina to open or start a Citizens Academy. And we're wanting to run volunteer programs and those type of things. And we're now getting to a place where we're putting that stuff together. So I went down to Towns County and sat down with Chris Clinton, the sheriff down there, and we talked about some of the things that they're doing in Towns County. They run a citizens program, a Citizens Law Enforcement Academy down there, and they've been doing it for some time, and it's quite successful. And so I had the opportunity to go down there and just sit down with Sheriff Clinton and talk to him about what they're doing, and the same thing that we're doing in North Carolina, what works well, what doesn't work well, what are the problems you've seen, that type of scenario. And so we're able to put these programs together and feed off each other as to what we're seeing in their area and what works and what doesn't work. So we're able to get a lot of resources from Towns County and a lot of resources from their sheriff's office down there, talking about reinventing the wheel, all the way down to PowerPoints and lesson plans and applications and all those kind of things that Towns County just freely handed to us and said, here, you just change the name on top of it. Use what we've already done here.
Super.
And so just little stuff like that, working with other counties, really helps. It really helps expedite things and get things moving along.
Very good. Let's see. Well, the weather is warming up a bit, and we may see 70s. Our TV channel says 80.
Right.
But I think Jennifer's calling for 70s tomorrow, upper 70s. In some areas, maybe a little 60 in the upper 60s. But we saw pictures on your Facebook page with the inmates out cleaning roads. How is that going?
It's going very well.
What kind of response have you received?
Great response. A lot of response from the public that has seen the inmates out working. Just one thing I do want to remind the public, though, they are inmates, and they're not allowed to have conversations with the public or interact with the public. So if you see a loved one or a family member or a friend or somebody out on the side of the road picking up trash, you can't get out and talk to them, and you can't get out and interact with them there. Just reminding people of that, because they are still inmates, they are still in custody. And one of the problems that you have when you have inmates out doing work details, we try to vet them, and we try to get people who will work and people who are doing it for the right reasons, whether they're working off time off their sentence or whether they're getting some kind of monetary compensation for it through different programs. If that is the case, where they can put on their commissary to buy stuff at the detention center, there's no cash transfers. I want to clarify that they don't receive cash for doing that. But sometimes we work out things with other agencies and other people where there may be some money put on their commissary where they can buy supplies or buy things they need through the jail. But more often than not, 99.9% of the time, they're out there either working good credit off their time or just to get outside, just to get fresh air, just to get sunshine. So that's where the majority of the stuff is happening there, and the reason they're out there. But they're still in custody. And we try to vet these people the best we can, and we want to try to prevent anything from happening as far as contraband getting back to the jail or somebody slipping on something they shouldn't have or gaining drugs or anything of that nature, And so we're trying to be vigilant about that. That's why we don't allow people to interact with them on the roadways. So,
I saw that your comments on that post were very positive from the public.
Right.
What about the reaction from the inmates who are actually doing the work detail? Are they enjoying
that?
Love it.
Or? They love it.
Well,
every one of them would get out and work for the most part if they could. Some of them can't because of the nature of the charges they're charged with, or there's all kind of different reasons why they can't. But they're ones that we've had to go through the court process and get recommendation for work release and those kind of things. There's ones that qualify that are able to get out there and do that. And so every one of them would get out and work if they could. But while we're talking about that, while we're talking about getting outside, one of the things I also want to let the public know that we're planning on this spring, and we do have a date, but we're not going to make it public yet until we get things finalized.
Right.
But when things warm up a little bit on up into the spring, we are planning on doing an outdoor revival at the detention center for the inmates. This is also going to be open to the public, for the public to come and take part in that. Of course, we can't allow the public to come inside the detention center. So what we're planning on doing is using the outside grassy area outside the jail that's still in the fenced-in area, of having the inmates come outside to take part in that. And there's a different section cornered off that we'll put seating for the public to come in that section if they'd like. Okay. And so it's kind of going to be a thing for the inmates, for anybody that wants to participate. before we start getting blasted on Facebook about separation of church and state and all those kind of things. No one is forced to go to it. If they don't want to go to it, they don't have to go to it. No one has to participate. But what we'll do is we'll hold this stuff outside, and so that any of the inmates that want to participate in this, they'll have an opportunity to come to it, just like they would have an opportunity to go to chapel on Sunday, or just like they'd have an opportunity to go to a Bible study within the detention center, or take AA classes, or whatever else is going on. So they have the opportunity to participate or not participate, whichever one they choose. And so that's something that we're planning on coming up for the spring, and we've talked to several different ministers about this that might want to participate, and different groups that may want to sing and things of that nature. So that's just an upcoming event that we want to make the public aware of, and hopefully we'll get some participation from the public on that.
Very good.
One thing we do need to remind people, all the time, is that there are career criminals out there that needs to go to prison, that's where they need to stay. They don't need to be out. That's just where they need to go. But for the most part, most of the people we deal with are good people that's been through bad situations in life and has made some poor choices. And so we want to give them an opportunity, whether it's spiritual opportunity or whether it's physical opportunity through different kind of classes, to make a change in their life, to make those decisions, to be different when they get out. So we just want to offer these things to them and give them an opportunity to better themselves and to better their families.
There's always a good part of making a poor choice, and that part is learning from that poor choice and how to be better next time. So I think all of us, I know all of us have made poor choices in life at some point, and it's just picking up and going forward from that point.
Well, the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of people out there that are good people. They may be business people. They may have great families, and they may be going to church and a lot of stuff. But in their younger years, they may have done things they shouldn't have done. And the only difference between them and the life they're living and the life of the people that's in the detention center is these people got caught and they didn't. Right. And so we need to keep that in perspective and understand that.
All right. Yeah. Over the weekend, I think it was Saturday afternoon, we got a message from Cherokee County Communications about a 20-year-old male who had suffered a gunshot wound.
Right.
Can you tell us about anything what happened there? This was in the Grape Creek community, I
believe?
Little bit.
It's still, from my understanding, I talked to the lieutenant of investigations this morning about that, and from what I understand, it's still technically an open investigation, so we can't say a whole lot about it. But we can tell you this, is that it was, up to this point, has been ruled self-inflicted. A lot of people were concerned that somebody was on the loose and we were looking for somebody that shot somebody else. That was not the case. When the call first came into the dispatch center, it was indicated to the dispatchers that they had been shot by someone else.
Right.
When the detention center, dispatch center, sent officers to the scene and they got down there and started working the scene and realizing what was happening, they quickly found that it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And there were family members on scene. There were other people there that when it happened that kind of confirmed that it was a self-inflicted wound. I think it's non-life-threatening. The person is going to be okay. They're going.
That was my next question. Right. Good. So he was in stable condition when
he was in stable condition when they flew him out, and from what we understand, he's going to be all right. That it was non-life-threatening, and should be coming home shortly. And so we're just looking now at what other mental needs that might need to be addressed there with that.
Right. Yeah. All right. So what else is going on in the sheriff's office?
Well, one thing I do want to tell people about right now that we need to be on the lookout for, that it is that time of year for the IRS scams to start firing back up again. They've already been going on. A lot of people have called about these. And I can't say this enough. I know we say that every time we talk about scams, but we need to make sure people understand this, is that the IRS is not going to call you at home and threaten to put you in jail and have warrants on you and all those kind of things. If that is going on, you can feel confident that that's not the IRS, that it's a scam. So if you're getting calls and people saying that if you don't pay this certain amount by a certain day that there'll be a warrant issued for your arrest, don't buy into that. Just hang up the phone. And I can assure you, if anything comes to the sheriff's office, we'll notify you ourselves of there being a warrant or a problem there. They feed off fear and intimidation, and so they cause people to be afraid, and they're afraid if they don't give them the information or if they don't pay a certain amount that bad things are going to happen. But the IRS does all their correspondence, 100% of their correspondence is done by mail. they will not call you at home. The only time that you'll have a phone call with IRS is if you call their office. You can have a conversation with them that way. But they do all their correspondence by mail. And so people just need to understand that. Along with the scams, the other thing that is going on is that we are finding in Cherokee County and in surrounding counties credit card scammers as far as the ATM machines and things of that nature.
Oh, so they have been found in Cherokee County?
They have been found, yeah. We've got several reports in the last few weeks about card scammers found on machines. And so if you're using ATM machines or you're going to a bank or something like that, and there's a device on that machine that is not normal, it's normally not there, that's protruding from the device itself, don't use your card at those machines, and to call somebody and let us know that there's something suspicious with that ATM machine so we can check on it. What it is, for those that may not be familiar, is it's an attachment that they can put on the outside of the ATM machine, and when you scan your card into the ATM, you're actually putting it through their machine before you get to the ATM machine, and it's pulling all your information off your cards as far as your PIN numbers that you put in and all those different kind of things with that card and with that account information. And then they can later on use that information to maybe purchase products from the internet or things of that nature. They don't actually need your card to purchase. They just need the information off your card.
Right.
And so they can take that information and purchase things via internet and make, charges and stores and things of that nature. So if you see some kind of suspicious device on an ATM machine, please don't put your card in there and call somebody right away. Let them come look at it.
I'm assuming most banks probably have a policy to check their ATM daily for these, but in between that period,
that's typically what happens on this. What'll happen is, like for example, I know out on 64 West we have a ATM machine out there next to the Big D store out there on the corner, and so using that for an example. They do come by and check those almost on a daily basis, if not every day. They do check those. But what happens is maybe late at night, at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, some person may put a scammer on that machine and leave it on there for, say, 3 or 4 hours. They come by and pull it back off again. And so it's not there for a long time. It may just be there for a few hours. But if they can gain one card in an hour, if they just get one card's information, that's all they need. And so they may put it on there and they may park somewhere else and watch it, until somebody uses it. And after they use it, they go retrieve it and pull it back off. So it's kind of hard to catch these people in the act of doing this because they're not on there for a long period of time. And so that's why I say if you see a device like that, if you see something suspicious on these machines, if there's something loose on it that don't feel like it's built in part of that machine, then contact either the sheriff's, just call 911. At that point and tell the dispatcher where you're at and what location, and that way they can send the sheriff's office or the police department to that location and check it out.
Recovering from identity theft is not an easy process. It takes a long time going through the credit unit, credit reporter agencies, and I know several people who have been victim of identity
Some
theft.
people, it takes years to ever recover from identity theft.
So the best thing is just to protect yourself from that. And I've even read stories, articles from news publications that even because we have such a problem with hacking and cyber security, even when you're, and they target a lot of medical institutions too, like your insurance companies, doctor's office, and some experts say that even when you fill out the application on the doctor's application to establish a PIN instead of giving out your social security number for those type of applications.
Yeah, a lot of the applications are done now. They don't even put social security numbers on them at all anymore. Just for that identity theft situation, just for people taking that information and buying new cards or applying for new cards based on that social security number. So a lot of the applications you see now, if they do use a social security number, it may just be like, for example, the last 4 digits that's shown and not the entire number. So people just need to be very careful, about the information they have out there and what they give out. And even your records that you throw away in the trash can, banking account information and those kind of things. If you don't have a shredder at home to shred that information, at least take a pair of scissors and cut it up, rip it up in several pieces, things of that nature. Typically when I'm destroying cards or destroying banking information at home to throw in the trash, I'll typically try to cut it down through the middle of the numbers to where half your numbers is on one page and half you're on another, as far as not just the middle as far as between the numbers, but actually across the numbers. That way if you get only half the number, you can't tell what the bottom half was, whether it was a 6 or whether it was a 2 or a 9 or what it was. So just use a little extra effort to try to protect your information there, because people will go through your trash, they will find things, and you don't want to be a victim of identity theft.
Right. I know when I cut up a credit card, I cut it up into about 8 or 9 pieces at least, and throw the pieces in different trash bags. So it's hard to reassemble.
Right.
But we're not trying to create paranoia, but we just want to make sure folks are protecting themselves.
Well, we're living in a day and age where you have to use precaution. You have to use precaution in what you're doing, and no one may ever try to take your identity. No one may ever try to take your information, but I'd rather be on the safe side and go ahead and protect that, even if they don't try, as to just leave it out there in the open and take a chance on it.
And there's so many, whether it be telemarketing, email scams, Facebook scams.
Right.
There's so many different avenues now that we didn't have before.
Oh, I'm sorry, hit the microphone here. But even with going to Wi-Fi hotspot areas, going to McDonald's or going to some of these places that offer Wi-Fi, even if you're using laptops and iPads and those type of things in those areas, you need to have a certain amount of protection on those also, because there are devices out there that works through airwaves that can skim your information of what you're looking at and what you've got on your computer to try to get your banking information off and things of that nature. So even when you're using public hotspots, you need to be careful, and you have protection upon your device to keep other people from stealing it. LifeLock and a lot of these other things that are out there to keep that from happening.
I saw on Facebook about a week and a half ago saying that an elderly man, I think it was in line at a store, and someone had walked up behind him to scan the contents of his wallet from behind. Is that is that true?
It is possible. I don't know whether that happened or whether it didn't, but I will tell you those type of things are possible. It's the card scamming of getting the card probably is not going to get that information by waving a wand over your pocket or anything like that. Most of those things you actually have to have the magnetic strip pass through to pull that information off. But I'm sure there's devices out there that people could extract some type of information off of. I'm not really quite sure what's there, but at this day and time, I would say nothing's impossible at this day and time.
Right. It really is interesting. I know they sell the wallets, and I have one myself that have the apparently a lining in the actual material to prevent some kind of transfer of information.
Yeah, it's like a mesh lining or something.
Yes.
Put in it. Kind of supposed to scramble the code or scramble the signal, I think.
We live in a different day and time now.
We do. And, our county is growing. It's growing by leaps and bounds. And one other thing I want to throw out there, I know we're fixing to go in a few minutes, but one of the things I want to throw out there, too, is that in 2014 and 2015, for the month of January and February, we answered about 1,000 calls. We averaged about 1,000 calls a month in January and February for the last 2 years. This year in January and February, I ran the numbers this year, and this year in January we answered about 2,400 calls, and in February we answered over 2,500 calls in February. So that's an increase of 1,400 calls per month. And we actually increased more than they were answering the last 2 years. So we have to understand that our county is going through a phase, and it's growing. And with all the business that we're having, and with the economy's coming back, real estate's coming back. I played an ad just before it started about the alcohol referendum that's coming up. There's a lot of anticipation about that, about what might happen in the future with it. But we can't deny the fact that we are growing. We can't deny the fact that there are a lot more people here than they were before.
Right.
And the one thing I do want to remind people is that even the traffic that you see out here with, sitting at the red light at McDonald's and trying to get out from Restaurant Alley on the 4-lane out there, and all the problems that we're having, try to remind people we're just coming out of our winter months. We've not really gotten into our spring months yet.
Right.
Usually they're around Easter, somewhere around Easter. You'll start seeing a lot of our summertime residents coming back to the county.
And there's quite a few seasonal residents.
There's quite a few, and you'll see those coming back in the county. And so the traffic that we've experienced this winter is typically what we've been experiencing in the summer. So when we bring these other people back on top of that, we're going to see an additional increase of traffic problems and traffic issues. And that in itself is going to, just the influx of people is going to bring an increase in the call volume that the sheriff's office is doing, and the police departments, and the different people in the area. I had talked to the assistant chief of the PD, Dustin Smith, the other day, and we were talking about things that we were seeing in the county and what the police department was seeing. And he was expressing a lot of the same things they're seeing over there, an increase in traffic accidents, an increase in calls for service, increase in all those things that they're experiencing there at the police department. And what a lot of people don't understand about that is, for example, if you have just a traffic accident that happened there in Murphy, and they've only got 2 police officers that's working duty that day, and they have one or both of them tied up for an hour or so on that accident, well, they've still got other calls and other things coming in on top of that. So the police department has been very good about responding to calls. They've been very good about getting where they need to get, but they're in the same situation that we're in, of that call volume is ever increasing and increasing and increasing. And at some point in time, we're going to have to look at what's the solution to that problem, whether it's adding more people, increasing budgets, whether it's resources. What is the answer to that problem? And so one of the things that I've started doing, and we're going to talk a lot about this evening when I get back to the sheriff's office, is about grants that's out there and things that are available to bring resources to the sheriff's office so we can help with some of these problems that's going on out there. So we're trying to find different avenues and different things to do that. But what we're hoping with the start of this Citizens Law Enforcement Academy that we're going to get started here in a few months, that in the process of doing that we'll be able to help a lot of our citizens that are willing to volunteer and help the sheriff's office can help us with a lot of those issues that we're having, so we can get the patrol officers out there doing what they need to be doing and patrolling our community streets.
Very good. Well, Sheriff, thank you very much for being with us again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And we'll do this again next Monday.
We'll see you then.
All right.